Hey guys, Sko here, and I wanted to do a quick video about, Shadowlands Week 3 and how to gear up for the Mythic raid. And this is the same, process that I'll be doing on my own character as we prepare for the Mythic raid that's being released obviously on the 15th and 16th of December. So let's just go through, quickly how you can maximize the gear on your character this week. So starting with the most, the easiest one probably, with the world boss. So there is a world boss going to be up this week. You can kill it once obviously per reset, and that is going to drop a 207 item level piece of gear, so make sure you kill the world boss. And then we're going to jump into the raiding side of things. You can do both the normal and heroic raid. Normal raid is going to drop 200 item level. Heroic raid is starting at 239 level with slightly higher item level at the final bosses. So yeah, make sure you obviously do the normal heroic raid. Pretty obvious ones so far, guys. Now that brings us on to, what you're probably going to spend the majority of your time on this coming week, and that is Mythic Plus. So, as per prior expansions, Blizzard has put a cap on the highest item level you can get from the end of dungeon chests, and this cap right now is item level 203. So the way to get item level 203 is to do Mythic 10s. That's the most efficient way to get 203. That's when you can start getting 203 from the chests at the end of the dungeon. So you want to spam as many Mythic 10s as possible. And in Shadowlands, you're only going to get one piece of loot. One piece of loot, guys, at the end of a Mythic Plus dungeon. However, if you time the key, you're going to get one extra piece of loot. So it is really important that you time the keys. So you get the two pieces of loot instead of one. There's going to be certain dungeons that are more sought after than others. Particularly for like the best in slot trinkets. So, for things like tanks, you've obviously got the other side for the blood splattered scale trinket, alongside, the quantum device for a lot of the DPS classes. Also, Plague Fall is going to be pretty popular for, melee DPS and tanks for the file of putrefaction, or putrefaction, should I say? How do you spell it? How do you pronounce that trinket? Putrefaction? Okay, we're going with that, guys. And, there's going to be a couple of other ones like Spires of Ascension and Mists. Spires of Ascension for the Anima Battery and Mists for the Unbound Changeling. So that's, half the dungeons. So like I said, there will be some dungeons that are more popular than others. However, you probably do just want to go with like a pre-made group because Mythic 10s will be relatively hard. So you want to probably just, try and gather a group of guildmates or friends and just use the same people to go through the Mythic 10s as much as possible. So you can obviously, you can trade the gear as you guys start gearing up. One thing you can obviously consider doing is you could start with the heroic raids. Since the heroic raids drop 213 item level, that would allow you to, trade gear from the Mythic Plus runs instantly, right? Because the item level that you're going to get there is 203. So it would probably be most efficient to start with the raids. Or the world boss, of course, is higher item level 2. So world boss raids, then go and do the Mythic Plus spam would be the most efficient order of doing things. With Mythic Plus, you also want to do a Mythic 14. And this is for the weekly Great Vault. So basically the chest that you had in BFA, this is replaced with the weekly Great Vault. Doing a Mythic 14 key will allow you to, get a 226 item level item in your weekly Great Vault. Next reset, of course, when you open it. And the way that the weekly vault works, you can check it out yourself, of course, guys. There's lots of resources out there, but there's a row for raiding, there's a row for Mythic Plus, there's a row for PvP. If we look at the Mythic Plus row, you basically, the highest item level key that you do in the week is what fills the first slot. The fourth highest key that you do fills the second slot, and the 10th highest key you do in the week fills the 10th slot. So it depends how hard Mythic 14 is. I do imagine it to be pretty hard with this item level this week. After having played the beta, you got scaled up to about 200 item level, I believe, on the beta, and the level 14 keys were pretty challenging at 200 item level. And I think you're going to be slightly lower than that when you go into these initial keys, since most people are around about 184 item level right now. So it depends how hard 14s are. You're gonna want to do at least one, but it could also be worth doing 4. So you've got 4 times 14 keys. That would then fill the second slot in your weekly Great Vault with another 226 item. So you're gonna have more more options there as to which item you want to pick from your weekly Great Vault. It just depends if it's worth it time wise. It depends how hard the 14 is and how good your group is, of course. Most likely what I'm going to be doing is basically, you know, there's two scenarios. Either I'm going to do one 14 key and all the rest of my keys for the reset are pretty much going to be 10s, just spamming 10s. Or I'll do 4 14 keys and, you know, then spam everything else is pretty much level 10, right? So basically what that would mean is my first slot's 14, second slot would be 14, and then third slot would be a 10, of course. It doesn't matter how many mythics you do, mythic plus you do like during the week. You can do lower keys too, of course. As long as, like, you know, you keep in mind what your highest mythic you've done that week is, what your the highest 4 that you've done, and then highest 10 that you've done. Just keep that in mind. Hope that explains the weekly vault enough. I know some people are a little bit confused about it. Maybe that didn't simplify it enough. But so to keep it simple, guys, most people will be doing 114 and then just spamming 10s basically, because the highest item level you can get from Mythic Plus is the, you know, the cap that Blizzard's put on this week, which is 203. However, you could do 4 14s and then the rest 10s if you wanted to get that 2 choices between the 226 next week. It doesn't give you, you know, it doesn't give you 2 items. It just gives you that choice between those 2. So, you know, that is still pretty significant because it could be an item either one, right? So after that, you could consider doing PvP. So you can gather up to 550 Conquest this week. And with Conquest, you can buy item level 200 gear. So just below the, you know, the Mythic 10 item level. What's good about this gear though is that based on your rating, you're actually able to upgrade this gear to a higher item level. And what's kind of going to be quite realistic for players, I guess, you know, players who, let's say, don't have that much PvP experience, but are still relatively good at the game, it should be possible for you to get 1800 rating. And so what that will allow you to do is to upgrade that Conquest item with Honor, which you're going to get from, you know, doing Battlegrounds, Epic Battlegrounds, or Arena, to an item level of 213. So if you get up to 1800 rating, you can upgrade one of the Conquest items to 213. Now, the Conquest cap weekly is 550, right? So if you look at the vendor of the Conquest items, you're not going to be able to buy many items for under 550. I think they mostly cost around like 700 plus. So you're going to have to go into the second week, which is the Mythic week, to actually be able to buy an item. But what's quite important there is that, you know, this vendor has trinkets and it has weapons too, right? And if you can upgrade those to 239 level, it is the equivalent almost of getting, well, it is the equivalent of basically getting a heroic raid piece. So if the stats are good, or if you're lacking a weapon, like you've been really unlucky with weapon drops, it could be, you know, worth looking into the PvP side of things. Keep in mind that the stats on the PvP gear are very focused on, you know, versatility. So, you know, have a look at the vendor, see if there's items that make sense for you to kind of go after. I do think for a lot of people it will make sense to do the PvP side of things. You know, it kind of comes down to how much time you have and how much you kind of want to min-max the gearing of your character. The other 2 small things I guess worth mentioning is there is the callings. Again, maybe it's a little bit late with this video, but you can hold the callings, right? You don't have to hand them in. So basically, you know, you can have up to 3 callings at any one time. You know, just make sure you hand the calling in before that time limit expires, and then it gets replaced by a new calling, of course. So you don't want to hand it in, because even if you have the chest in your inventory, it's already kind of registered when you actually did the hand in. So what you want to do is you want to hold the quest, the completed quest, and before it's about to expire, that's when you hand it in, that's when you get the chest. And, you know, when you open the chest at that point, you know, you will hopefully be able to get a higher item level piece of loot, depending on what your current item level is. At least that's my understanding of it. So it does make sense that if you're doing callings today on the Tuesday, and you realize you're about to go into the heroic raid tomorrow and your item level is about to jump up, it might make sense to hold those callings, not hand them in until, you know, you've had that item level boost. Then you hand it in, get the chest, open the chest, might have a higher item level loot, piece of loot in it, you know, in relation to your item level, of course. The final thing I want to say, and this is for people who are probably struggling with a little bit of time, is if you still don't have like full 184 gear, or if there's like a particular trinket or piece of gear that is, you know, very valuable for you as you know, your class, then it is probably worth considering doing the M0s again, especially, you know, particular, you know, you could target obviously specific M0s. So if there's like a particular trinket that you really want, then it does make sense maybe to jump into that M0 and try and get it, because the M0s obviously drop, you know, quite a lot of loot, and they're obviously going to be very, very easy to do this week. But yeah, that's pretty much my my plan for how to gift the Mythic raid. Just to quickly go over that, so that, because I know I rambled probably quite a lot in this video, to quickly go over that again, it's basically World Boss. You're going to spam out as many Mythic 10s as possible, because that's the cap on the item level you can loot from the end of dungeon chest, which is 203. you want to time the keys so you get 2 pieces of loot instead of 1. And then you want to do either 1 or probably either 1 or 4 level 14 Mythic pluses, so that you get the highest item level at your weekly vault at the end of the reset. Either 1 choice or 2 choices, depending if you do 1 or 4. You want to you obviously want to do the raids, of course. You know, the normal and heroic. That's a given. You're probably not going to get much gear from the raids, by the way, guys. The drop rate is the amount of items that drop is low, so don't expect to get fully geared from doing normal and heroic raids. Like you're maybe going to get like what 2 or 3 items max from either of those raids. So you are going to have to do a lot of Mythic Plus if you want to, maximize. And then obviously consider the PvP gear. Look at what the vendors are offering. Does it make sense for you to get the Conquest and the Honor to upgrade that to a heroic raid level piece of loot? That's obviously that's up to each individual player. I know at Method we're doing that at least for the most part. So it is something worth considering. And like I said, very minor. Consider the callings, handing them in when you've got high rank level, and finally, if you're running out of time but you just want quick upgrades on your character that you didn't manage to get in the first two weeks, then consider just targeting certain Mythic Zeros to get that trinket that you really want, or whatnot. But yeah, hopefully this video was helpful to some people, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on stream.